Meeting called to order. Public portion of the meeting begins. New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the rights of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the business administrator, board secretary, has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted on the bulletin board of the municipal building, communicated to the Hawthorne Press, the record, and filed with the clerk of the Borough of Hawthorne. Roll call, please.
Mr. Clavijo?
Here.
Ms. Goff?
Here.
Mr. Palouse?
Here.
Mr. Reicher?
Here.
Ms. Sanford?
Here.
Mr. Sciarra?
Here.
Mr. Taro?
Here.
Mr. Turco?
Here.
Mr. Doyle?
Here. Would everyone please rise and join me for the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Meeting regulations. During each regular meeting, 2 opportunities are provided for citizens to ask questions and to make comments. During the first opportunity, early on the agenda, the meeting is open to the public for the purpose of addressing items listed for approval on this agenda only. The second opportunity occurs just prior to the adjournment, when citizens may address any subject matter that is pertinent to and/or directly related to the operation of the school district. Persons wishing to speak must, upon being recognized, rise, sign in, state their name, address, and subject matter. Comments and questions shall be addressed to the board president or the presiding officer and shall be limited to 5 minutes per person. The board may or may not respond to issues raised by members of the public at the time they are raised, but will provide a response if and when appropriate. The board asks that members of the public be courteous and mindful of the rights of other individuals when speaking. Please note that the board will not respond to comments regarding students or board employees in light of the privacy rights held by those individuals. Moreover, the board discourages comments about such individuals and will not be responsible for such comments. Members of the public who choose to speak during this public session should carefully consider their comments, since they could be held personally liable for any statements they make. Finally, please note that in accordance with district policy, the board will not officially comment or respond to any matter mentioned unless it can confirm that the matter has first been brought to the attention of the appropriate school personnel in an attempt to resolve the issue. All right, that being said, public be heard, agenda items only. All right, seeing no one, moving on. Approval of the minutes. September 17, 2019.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Clavijo?
Yes.
Ms. Goff?
Abstain.
Mr. Palouse?
Yes.
Mr. Reicher?
Yes.
Ms. Sanford?
Yes.
Mr. Sciarra?
Yes.
Mr. Taro?
Yes.
Mr. Turco?
Yes.
Mr. Doyle?
Yes. All right, moving on to our correspondence and our student council representatives report. Ava?
Good evening, everyone. I'm so happy to finally be here in person to speak on behalf of Hawthorne High School, and I think Beartober is the best time to start. This month, our student council, led by President Callie McCarthy, hosted a fall fest in the gym. Despite the change in location due to the weather, a great DJ, dancing, and donuts made the night an unforgettable success. With homecoming just around the corner, each grade has been planning themes for their hallway and outfits for Spirit Week. We hope to have an exciting homecoming week in preparation for the big game. Another highlight from this month was our HHS 7th and 8th grade open house. This year, we invited both 7th and 8th graders to tour the high school and see everything we have to offer. The cafeteria and gymnasium had representatives from every club and sport. Demonstrations of our STEM, broadcasting, and culinary programs wowed guests and hopefully persuaded kids to choose Hawthorne High School next fall. The Media Arts Center has produced many new opportunities for students this month. Activities include virtual reality goggles, 3D pens, and sewing lessons hosted at library lunchtime workshops. The library media specialist, Mrs. DiGeronimo, also presented lessons on finding incredible internet sources in classrooms this month. Students are looking forward to the Halloween paint party to conclude another busy and creative month at the library. Congratulations to Hawthorne High School Marching Band for their first place win at Midland Park. In addition to beating Riverdale, Indian Hills, and Pompton Lakes by a large 5-point lead, they also took the caption Best Music, Best Percussion, and Best Marching. We wish you luck for your upcoming state and regional competitions. As for fundraising, the band will be hosting its annual pasta dinner on the 24th. Please come out and support the amazing students that give us wonderful music. The Bears have had a rewarding month in sports. Danielle Diascoli of our tennis team will be competing in the finals match for a county title. Our girls soccer team had an exciting win beating PCTI in the county tournament. Volleyball had a win in the county tournament over Kennedy. Boys soccer had an exciting win at West Milford to advance to the quarterfinals in the county tournament. Football will be playing our homecoming game on Friday against Secaucus. For the rest of Beartober, students look forward to dressing up, decorating, and supporting our football team this Friday. That is all for October's report. Thank you.
Thank you, Ava. Mr. Spirito, Superintendent's
All
report.
right, thank you very much. First, I want to welcome Ava to our first meeting. Happy to have you with us. Look forward to having you here for the rest of our school year. Okay, a few things just to talk about. First, I want to start by thanking Ms. Weigert, our Director of Guidance. Her and Mr. Galuccio presented back on September 25th, a parent night about college, the college application process. It's an important topic to discuss with parents. We spent about an hour and a half or so talking about the process. Parents were allowed to ask questions, but Ms. Weigert always does such a great job, and I want to thank her for, having those nights available to our parents, because it really helps in a process that can be challenging. I can tell you from personal experience. So appreciate that her and Mr. Galuccio had that night available for parents. The open house, Ava mentioned, and I know it was going to be mentioned later. I just want to thank everybody who was involved. I thought it went really well, and I'll talk a little bit more about it later. Our Professional Development Day. Yesterday, we had our Professional Development Day for all of our staff. I want to thank Mrs. Trebona for all of her efforts in organizing what can be a challenging day. There's a lot to organize, a lot of people to make sure we're in the right place, a lot of presenters. So thank you, and good job on a great PD day for our staff. I want to also thank our administrative team who helped out. I know some of our administrators were presenting or running workshops or just facilitating those workshops. So again, I thought it was a really positive and worthwhile day. I just want to mention that October, there are 2 special weeks in October, the Week of Respect and School Violence Awareness Week. I will just simply say that we have a lot of activities going on in all of our schools during those 2 weeks. I'm sure if you have kids in the schools, you've heard about different things that are happening, a lot of different events, a lot of exciting events. The kids get excited about a lot of the things that are happening, some guest speakers. I know the police department's involved at certain points. So I just want to alert the board to those events or those weeks. Like I said, it's actually a lot of fun for the kids. They enjoy the events that take place during those times, and they're worthwhile because we talk about, obviously, during the Week of Respect, includes everything from resolving conflicts peacefully to managing anger. And again, it includes a lot of outside presenters as well as a lot of fun activities. And School Violence Awareness Week, those activities are geared towards the awareness and prevention of school violence and bullying specifically. So some very worthwhile topics that we are addressing. The other thing I want to just quickly update the board on. So there's actually a new system. It used to be called the Electronic Violence and Vandalism Reporting System, the EVVRS system. It now has changed to the Student Safety Data System. So we're in the 2nd year of this new system. So what we're required to do is report incidents of violence, vandalism, substance abuse, weapons, and confirmed HIBs twice a year. So what I'll be just sharing the numbers with you tonight. They are the numbers from last spring, from January to June of 2019. We report those at the beginning of the year, and then in the second half of the school year, we report the numbers from September through December. All right? So basically, just to give you an idea, we had in the second half of last year, we had 3 total incidents: no incidents of violence, no incidents of vandalism, no incidents of substance abuse, and no incidents of weapons, zeros in those categories. We had 3 confirmed HIBs in the second half of last school year, so that's where the 3 total incidents occur. And then we had 9, this doesn't count, but I'm just letting you know we had 9 alleged HIBs, not confirmed HIBs, but alleged. All right, so I'm required to report that to you twice a year, so that is meeting our requirement by sharing that information with you. Okay, other than that, at this time, I want to turn it over to Mrs. Trebona, who is going to share our new district testing presentation with you. And then I will
I
comment.
got some new TVs in case you want to see what's going on. Thank you, Mr. Spirito. I wasn't sure if I was gonna be able to see with the new TVs, so I got my glasses out tonight. So you know the deal, every year we are going to have to report to the district, to you guys, what our annual testing results are. And like I said last year, my way of doing this is to bring this to the most relevant for us, and the very honest. I'm a data person, so there's gonna be stuff that we love up there and there's gonna be stuff that we don't love up there, and that's just the reality of it. To kind of address what we don't like up there, one of the best things is, there's always a plan, and that's what I wanna share with you guys, is what is that plan and where are we going with that plan. So, the required assessments that the students are giving and that we're required to report on are New Jersey Student Learning Assessment in English Language Arts, Math, and Science. So that is the top two is what replaced the PARC. So last year was the first year that it was called the New Jersey Learning Assessment. And basically what New Jersey did was, it was still on the St. Pearson platform. They took it kind of like they did with the Common Core, put the New Jersey stamp on it. So it wasn't called PARC, so we're no longer a PARC state, but we had a very similar test. The data was all compared to the regular thing. We also have the dynamic learning maps, which is the assessment that are taken for our most severely special ed student population, who are tested on the same standards, but at a completely broken down and modified version of it. So they're tested more on their level for the same standards. And then there's the Access for L's, which is for our English language learners. So basically, anybody who comes in who's an English language learner, they enter and exit the program based on either the Access for L's actual WIDA test or the WIDA screener. So if we have somebody that we think is going to be an ELL candidate, they're given the WIDA screener, which based on that score, they enter or exit the program. So basically, there were some slight changes in this past school year on who took the test. So normally it was grades 3 through 11 for ELA, but last year the state only mandated grades 3 through 10 take the ELA test. For our sake, our data is going to be a little skewed, and I'll show you that because grade 11 was not mandated to, but any student who at the time of 11th grade testing did not meet one of the graduation requirements in the a la carte menu, we made them take that test because we wanted to give them every opportunity. So when I present some 11th grade data, it's going to be skewed because it was a kind of a small cohort of people who we knew were some of our struggling students. In math, they had to take it 3 through 8, as well as Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2. They only took Algebra 2 if they were taking it in 10th grade, or they were one of these low-level kids. So I will, again, distinguish that in the report. Special education is the significant challenges, and L's were our English language learners. For the science test, I kind of skipped over that. Grades 5, 8, and 11 took it. This would be the second year. So as of right now, you'll see when we get to that, we don't have scores yet. But what I'm hearing from the state is that the scores are coming. So we'll wait for them, and when we do have them, I'll share them with you. So I look at it through questions. Everything I do is based on questions. What are we gonna look at when we see this? So we wanna look at 4 major things. We wanna look at how well did this year's group of students do compared to the peers across the state. So we're a small district in Passaic County. We have state data. We wanna see where are we in comparison to the state. We wanna look at how we've improved at each grade level. When I say that, we're looking at the test itself and how it's looking over year to year to year, so I can see where the strengths are in the curriculum, where the weaknesses are. So it would be different students, but looking at that. We wanna look at the same group of students as they move from 3rd grade to 4th grade to 5th grade. What is their percent change? What is their testing gains or losses? And then we wanna look at what are our greatest skills and what are our skills in need of support. So we're gonna start with English language arts. So basically, at a glimpse, we're blue, the state is red. What we were able to see is that we outperformed the states in grade 3 through 7 this year, and by a pretty significant amount. Now, this is the first time you're gonna see, ELA 11 is kind of a drastic, where are we there? But that's because we only had that small population of students taking it. So it's not, to me, that's kind of data that you have to report, but it's data that we can discount and kind of throw out, because that's not where we're going. What I will say is that this was an increase from last year. Last year, we only outperformed the states in grades 3 through 5. So what's kind of nice is now that cohort of students, so our expectation is my red circle is gonna get bigger and bigger over the next couple of years. We're making the gains we need to in ELA. If you break it down by demographic, basically female, male, economically disadvantaged students with disabilities and ELs, I put one section up there, which is our special ed population in the high school. That is an area that I unfortunately don't want to highlight that we didn't have any students pass, but at the same time, we need to dig deeper into that as to why are we not having the students pass there? Because there are students in the state who are passing in the special ed population. All right, so that's something that now as a district, we're kind of rolling up our sleeves, kind of digging around. I've been working with Jessica to say, okay, what is it? And I have some ways that we're kind of prepping and changing this, which I'll share later on. Our ELLs, what you'll see is that we do have a lot of zeros across the bottom there, but depending on when they come into the ELL program, when they come into the country, determines whether or not their test counts or not. So that's, again, not a really valid, it's not showing us that we're doing them wrong if we have zero passing it, because sometimes they're just sitting for exposure. So I didn't highlight that as much. What you're gonna look at here is we wanna look at these tests. So every year for the past, I only did it from 2016, so we have valid data. So I did a 4-year comparison. If we take our baseline data in 2016, what did our 3rd graders, 4th graders, 5th graders get? That's our gray boxes. So that's what we're gonna compare to, because that's kind of the baseline. It was the 2nd year of implementation, it was after the field test, so we kind of had our feet grounded. What we're looking at is the red line, the orange line, and the blue line is how we did in each grade level compared each year following. So this year was the blue. So for the most part, we outperformed where we were. Our blue line is higher, it's higher than our baseline, except for our 11th grade, there's our outlier again. But if we look at something like 7th grade, we're just getting better every year. So we went 17 was red, we outperformed them, 18 was orange, 19 was blue. So we're doing something really well in 7th grade. So that's a place that we're gonna look at to see what are we doing so that we can then turn around and say, okay, how do we get this to work in 6th grade and 8th grade? You know, there's a little bit of a dip in 8th grade, we're still outperforming, but what are we doing differently? You know, and that could be a curricular issue, that's not so much a kid issue. That's not looking at the population, but that's looking at our curriculum. This now we have to compare how we do across our 3 elementary schools as a district and as a state. So like I've always said, green is good. We want as much green as we can have. So in ELA, grades 3 through 5, regardless of the bar you're in, we have a lot of green. So if you can't read it, all the way to the left is Jefferson, then Roosevelt, then Washington. Then it's our district average of the 3 elementaries, and then it's compared to the state. So even though if you look at 3rd grade, Jefferson was lower than Roosevelt as compared to each other, once we average it out in the district, we still outperform the state in 3rd grade. So it's like a composite of the 3 schools. And our goal each year is to get more green and less red, and we're doing pretty well at this because we're hitting a lot of green up here. There's not a lot of red. Yes. Shoot.
With Jefferson,
Yes.
is that including,
So yes, all of this data includes the different populations of students that sit for the park. So if there's a child in the MD program at Jefferson that's IEP states that they're park tested, their data is included in here. So it's regardless of, it's everybody who takes it.
Roosevelt has a big chunk of it.
Roosevelt has a big of the tested point.
So Roosevelt is taking it, yeah.
Roosevelt, the programs that are run at Roosevelt are the ones that are most often linked to them sitting for the park rather than being exempt or being a DLM student. Washington and Jefferson are split about 50-50 with their kids who are, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jess, but with their kids who are going to be DLM, which is the lower version, or exempt from testing. So, but like I said, our biggest goal is to, like, yes, we wanna compare to the state, but we also wanna improve for ourselves. So if we're getting more green and less red, that's what we wanna look at. When we jump to 6th and 7th grade, obviously we're just comparing the middle school itself in 6th grade to the state. Again, if we don't outperform them, we're right on their tails. So you see in 8th grade, we didn't outperform the state, but we had more than 50% of our population of 8th graders receive a 4 or 5 on this exam. So yeah, we might not be right where the state is, but that's a good chunk for us. So we're happy with those gains. And again, 9th grade, 10th grade, you are going to see differences, and 11th grade, and you're gonna see differences for a lot of reasons. The students know that they have more options and that this test necessarily does not mean anything. So the 9th graders, the 10th graders knew that they had the a la carte menu still, because that was what was in legislation. They knew that they didn't have to pass the test, they could still use their PSAT score, they can use the AccuPlacer, they can use the ASVAB. So to say the validity or integrity of the student sitting for that test may not be the same as the 8th grader who's not thinking about a graduation requirement, is like, oh, it's standardized test day, I need to take my test. So in the state, you see that the trend in 9th, 10th, and 11th grade are lower than they are in the elementaries. This last one is a little different, and I wanna explain what this is. So one of the things we have to look at is we have to look at our students as they move from grade to grade to grade. So the bottom of this chart goes by graduation cohort. So if you're all the way to the right, those are our current seniors. If you go to the left, those are our current 4th graders. So what we're doing is I took all the test data from 2015 to 2019 for each one of these cohorts. So for the class of 2020, I took their 2019 score, their 2018 score, 17, 16, 15. From 15 to 16, I took the average, I took the difference. So did they go up or down by 0.2? Then between 16 and 17, what was their difference? 17 and 18, 18 and 19. I then averaged that, because over the course of 4 years, we wanna know, anybody's gonna go up and down on a given day, but what is their trend? Are they gonna increase or are they gonna decrease? So basically, we did the average percent change over the course of whatever test data we had for them between 15 and 19. As you can see, it doesn't really fluctuate. They're going up and down. That the goal is that we would love them to all be going up, but reality is, when you're looking at kids, they're not always gonna be going up and down year to year to year. So there's not that much difference. The biggest difference is that negative 10.3, and that again is talking about the cohort of students that kind of skewed the data or the outlier. The other difference is the class of 2027, which is our current 5th graders, they only had their comparison of 3rd to 4th grade. So that test in itself only gave us one data point, so that again isn't accurate. We wanna see what is the class of 2027 gonna be as the years come up and we start looking at this. So I'd say the class of 2021 is the most accurate, because that had the most data points, or valid data points to do an average over. But again, we're not going too much in one direction or the other, so at least we're staying the same. So here's what we're doing. We identified that there are some issues, okay? One of the biggest things that we pushed out K-12 is the whole New Jersey tiered system as a support in the RTI model with the instructional data team. We gave universal screeners K through 12 to all our students in English language arts and math. It was the DIBELS or the IXL continuous diagnostic. We've restructured the elementary school BSI program so that it has a push-in approach. We redesigned the instructional minutes, so there's flex minutes, meaning that there's a period every day where a kid's going to be doing the instruction in the area that they're weak. So we have all this data from the universal screeners, and it says that Kristen Trevona is weak in phonics, so during my 30-minute flex, I'm gonna be working with all the kids in a small group, maybe 10 to 12 kids in my own classroom on a little phonics engine. And there's gonna be 3 or 4 teachers in that room, depending on the school, breaking them up into small group. We bought Learning A to Z in the RAS Kids program for all K2 teachers and classes, and I'm looking into, because of the benefit of this, doing some electronic classroom libraries for 3, 4, and 5. So we're looking there. In the middle school, again, first two are the same. We instituted the language arts lab. So what Aaron and Rob, or Miss Deborah and Mr. Bertolini did over the past summer was they started looking at this data over and over. And they said, if I have a kid who's getting a 740, which isn't passing in 3rd grade, and then they're getting a 736 in 4th grade, and then they're getting a 737, but you know what, they keep getting A's and B's in classes because they're just not there. We built a support class into the 7-period day that's in a marking period to help them, because how are we just gonna keep pushing at the high school and say, we know that you didn't pass the test every year, but oh well, go to your classes. So we're looking at what we're doing there, and we also bought the Achieve 3000 Boost, which is an online reading platform for them to read at their Lexile level, to help them with this. And then at the high school, it's a little different. So we do have our NJTSS and our universal screeners, but this is more of a kind of a last ditch effort to catch those kids who are not going to meet the graduation requirement. Because if we have them to up here, what's gonna happen is we're gonna lose them now. So if we don't catch them now, it's that last effort. If we don't catch them at the high school, they're either gonna sign themselves out, drop out, or they're gonna just not graduate based on requirements, or they'll be our portfolio students. That's just our tiers. We are putting everybody in the district into tiers. The majority of our students are gonna be in tier 1, then a smaller population in tier 2, and our most at risk in tier 3. Those are, your tier 3 numbers are based on what we can support, what our teacher load can support to help them. So we're not gonna put 30 kids in tier 3 if I don't have the staffing to help this. So if my staffing for a pull-out program says it should be 3 kids, and I could put 9 kids across the school in this, that's what I'm gonna put, because I'm gonna put so that they improve, not just so I can check off that they're in it. So it's, again, just a continued effort. Any questions on the EL?
Question,
Yes.
just in regards to the intervention, what is the frequency in which we evaluate their performance?
Okay, in terms of the universal screener, so everybody's taken it, that data was entered into our system on September 30th. So right now, myself, the instructional coach, and the district-wide data team went through, and we now put everybody into tiers. So if your child is in tier 1, that's just your good practices within the classroom instruction. If your child is in tier 2, they're going, when the BSI teacher is pushing into the normal instruction, and we have flex, BSI flex, what's gonna happen is they're gonna be separated within the classroom and centers based on ability so that we can target instruction. That happens anywhere from daily to 3 times a week, depending on the school. But it's all within the classroom, so it's not like Johnny's running out and getting pulled out over here and he's missing English, and then Johnny's getting pulled out and moving over here. Then if they are this tier 3, which is, right now we're saying about 4 kids per grade level per school is what we can legitimately meet. They will get pulled out for an 8-week session. During that 8-week session, we're doing what's called progress monitoring. So every week to 2 weeks, we're giving them a version of the assessment again to see if what we're teaching them makes sense, and are they improving. After 8 weeks, if they're in tier 3, we reevaluate. And basically they go back, their new score goes back into the pot. If they still fall in the lowest grouping, they're gonna get pulled out for that second tier. The entire population in the district will get retested in January, anywhere between January 15th and February 8th. That will be our second benchmark. And then again between May 15th and June 15th. But those at-risk kids are anywhere from weekly to bi-weekly being tested to see if the actual interventions are working.
But a minimum is 3 times a year.
Minimum is 3 times a year for your average student. And some teachers are choosing, this came out of the PD yesterday, they're like, well, my kid's basically, I have a kid who's right on the border of tier 1 and tier 2. And they say, can I give them a progress monitor? Yeah, of course. You don't have to ask, but they get nervous, and I appreciate that. So the teachers are starting to embrace in themselves, like, ooh, I want some more valid data. Let me pull this kid aside. all the tests that we're given are no more than 5 one-minute tests. So we're not talking about a kid sitting down, and when you're doing the language arts one, you're sitting with the teacher one-on-one, and it's like they're reading a story, and we're just scoring how they're reading the story. Or they're doing their sight words, and we're like scoring them. So they don't feel like they're taking a test, they feel like they're in their center workshop with the teacher, one-on-one. I don't know where I am now, but that's okay. I'm going in the wrong direction.
Trying to go back to that.
I hit the right button. Here we go, math. So math, I am gonna give you 3 through 8, algebra 1 and geometry. It's gonna be set up in exactly the same way, so this should go quickly. We're blue, this stays red, this isn't as pretty. I don't know, some people like to start with the bad and end with the good. I like to start with the good, everybody's smiling, and we'll just go right through this quickly. We know that math is an issue here. So we might not have outperformed the state in areas, but what I can say is that overall as a district, we did make slight gains in certain areas, okay? So we're moving in the right direction, but like anything else, we gotta kind of dig everything apart to see why we're not doing well before we can kind of put it back together. So I'm at the part where like I got everything on the table, and we're just starting to kind of say, oh, okay, this goes here and this goes here. So we're gonna see improvements, we're just not there yet. Again though, our demographic data is perfectly fine, it's in par with the state. Our issue becomes our secondary special ed population, okay? But the goal is this: we are now trying to identify our kids so much earlier that we're hoping that they don't even get to this spot, you know, that we have identified it. One of the things we're doing, and this was a shift that we're doing grades 3 through 5. So grades 3 through 5 in language arts and math, they get benchmark assessments. They either get it through the Envisions program, and the special ed teachers, as per the IEPs, we're modifying these assessments. That's great. And I said, but hold on, time out. If we sit on the PARCC exam, and I'm a special ed student, the NJSLA is not modifying my exam, they're giving me accommodations to take this exam. They're having it read to me. They're giving me extended time. So we're setting our kids up for failure by taking the questions and modifying them because we want them, and I'm not trying to sound mean here, we want them to feel good because we don't want it to hurt their feelings if they don't do well. But in the long run, we're hurting their feelings when they're the yellow box. So what we're doing now, when we decided, is they're gonna sit for the benchmark exams if they have an IEP, and they're gonna get the same questions that their non-special ed peers are gonna get. What we are gonna give them is the accommodations that they would get from the PARCC, whether it's text-to-speech, whether it's calculator versus no calculator. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna be human beings and we're gonna look at the score. If that score is gonna negatively impact their marking period grade, we're not gonna put that in there because we're not out to penalize them. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna say, okay, now we know that Johnny cannot do this, so this is what he's gonna be exposed to in May, let's figure out how we're gonna fix it. So that is a major shift that we're doing this year to address that. Again, we have a lot of green, we just don't have as much green as we would like. We don't have as much green as we do in language arts. But if you look at our third grade was over 50%. I don't think a couple of years ago, we could have said that we had third grade 50% getting a 4 or 5 passing on the PARCC exam. So we've made gains. Do we have certain areas that are in? Well, yeah, and we look at that. That could be students, that could be curricular issues, that could be a whole variety of factors. So what we have to look at is the district kind of as a whole rather than the individual schools. Again, we're looking in language in Lincoln Middle School. We're okay. I'm happy that we're above the 25% mark. We're just not above the 50% mark, but now we have something to look forward to and to achieve. One of the interesting things here is that Algebra 1, and I know I brought this up last year. So Algebra 1 as a whole, we were just over 25%, about 23%, I believe, as a district. But when you disaggregate the data and you look at those kids who take it in 8th grade, which are our top 38 students, versus those kids who take it in 9th grade, which is the rest of the population, there's a huge disparity. But that is what it is. It's a difficult exam. Again, the kids knew, the 9th graders knew when they sat down for this, that they no longer needed it. They were the part of the cohort that had said, we need it, now we don't need it. So again, to say we know the fidelity in the test, I don't think we can accurately say that. Again, our blue line, again, like I said, this is comparative the exact same way I did ELA. We are looking for our blue line to always be the highest because that's gonna be our most current year. Besides Math 5, we knew Math 5 was an issue, we just saw that in the last slide. So something was off in Math 5 this year. Grade 7, again, I don't know what they're doing, but they're killing it. It's well above every year, we're going in the right direction. Now, what's pretty interesting is Algebra 2, which we think of as our 11th graders, is over here and we killed it this year. But that's because our 11th grade students in Algebra 2 didn't have to take it this year. These are our top students in 10th grade who were in honors and took Algebra 2 as 10th graders. That's why that well exceeded that, which is great.
I have just a real quick question. The 5th grade math. I know that this year we're changing the process where we have one teacher. I know my son's in Roosevelt, so he has, all the 5th graders have
Yes.
one teacher for math and then they all have the same.
That's one of the reasons why. So as we get, so what Ms. Sanford is speaking about is we departmentalized in the 5th grade across all the elementary schools. So what we did was in rearranging the minutes, we took equal 100-minute blocks because we can't improve our math scores if we're not increasing the minutes that we're spending in math. That's just math. So what we did was we took the 2 teachers in Roosevelt, or the 4 teachers in Roosevelt, and we made 2 of them pair up. One is a language arts specialist, one's gonna be a math specialist, because you need more content area expertise as you get up to the older grades. So now that teacher sees both class of 25 students for a 100-minute block. So they basically switch teachers now. In addition, that's preparing them for middle school. What that's doing though is allowing me to really drive in some PD with half the amount of teachers to become content specialists in that. And one of the reasons that was really solidifying this was our big decrease in Math 5 this year. You know, the math, I don't wanna say the math is getting harder, but the math is getting more complex to kind of break apart to get to that 5th grade mind. And that's why once you get to 6th grade, you need a math specialization. Yeah, if our school was a 5 to 8 middle school, we would need a content specialist to teach that. So it's kind of weird, it kind of contradicts itself.
If I could just add one other thing, the other thing to that point, and I can tell you from being an elementary teacher, some teachers just are more comfortable teaching math versus teaching language arts. And I think that was something else that we looked at, right? There's certain teachers that are stronger in one area versus another, as opposed to having to do both. Let them focus on the area that they feel more comfortable with and stronger in, and those kids can work with that teacher in math, and other kids in language arts with the other teacher. So there are a number of reasons that we made that switch, but
I gotta say, going into it, I wasn't sure how it was gonna be, because it was all brand new to us as parents, we had no idea,
Right,
we had no idea.
literally a chapter ahead,
Brand
it's
new
brand new to us too.
But it's working out well, it's working out well, he seems to like it, he seems to know that when I go here, this is the way I need to learn something, and when I go here, this is the way I need to learn something.
And you know, one of the other things we said is we keep them sheltered in the K-5 schools. And then we throw them into LMS and we're like, here you go, have 7 teachers with 7 different personalities. And it's like a culture shock. So this was another factor in trying to ease that transition. Because we were noticing a lot of the other issues, social emotionally, were coming out with that 6th grade transition. That you're like, well, maybe it's because we're not prepping them. We're not teaching them how to go be 6th graders. So now we're trying that as well. Again, I did the average percent change. What's pretty interesting is, again, there's little fluctuation, which is saying that our students are constantly performing kind of at the same level. We're not tanking it, but we're not making a huge gain. So I'd rather have some consistency rather than big drops in a direction. But like I said, I'd like to get everything above the bar. It's a goal. We gotta just keep working at it. Our math interventions, again, pretty similar to what we said. We had the increase in instructional minutes. In 5th grade, we had departmentalizing. What we're doing is we've been spending, myself working along with some of the elementary principals, Jackie Passaro, our academic coordinator. We've been hosting the grades 3 through 5 PD, which is focused 100% on math and math instruction this year, where they are literally doing this unpacking part. They're making sure that they can pull apart the standards. We're rewriting curricula as we work to say that regardless of a program that we bring in, whether we keep in visions, whether we go to everyday math, our teachers can teach this. Okay, so we're really trying to teach them so they can be able to teach the kids. Conquer Math is another, that's the Nancy Schultz that we sent a whole cohort through last year. What we did this year was we sent everybody who went last year to the year 2 training, because it's a 2-year consecutive training, and we put a whole second group into year 1 training. So I had 2 cohorts going. Cohort 2 will graduate out next year, they'll have completed Nancy Schultz, and then I'll do my last cohort moving in, and this year we'll move to year 2. Therefore, everybody K-5 who teaches math will then be trained in Conquer Math, which is basically a more holistic approach to math, so that it's not so much like we're on chapter 1, page 1, chapter 2, page 2, chapter 3, page 3. And again, we're just constantly, we put the math lab course at the middle school. I think if I had to sum it up in one word, we're collecting accurate data and we're going through it this year. So that's how our interventions in one word could be, we have data now. We have accurate data that we can now figure out what the issues are. Questions? Good.
Yeah, I have.
Yes, go.
Earlier you mentioned this, and you mentioned how a student could have really good grades, but yet not do so well in these tests. Is that a fact of them not testing well, or the fact that the information they're getting is not really?
It's not the information you're getting, I think it's a multitude of factors. So one thing, again, it could be we're measuring them on one given day at one given time, on a week that we say, this is when you're supposed to tell us everything you know. At 7:30 in the morning, but since you're in Mr. Doyle's second period, you're gonna take it at 3:30 in the afternoon. So there's that factor of it. There's the factor of where the way that we're teaching and prepping, as much as you don't wanna teach to a test, are we not teaching enough to model them? Because how can we expect them to do well if we're not modeling it? But you don't wanna over model it where it looks like all we're doing is spending our year prepping from the park. And I think and the third piece of that factor is the piece where you say, okay, is our curriculum right? We have a good curriculum.
That's what I was thinking.
And we have good teachers, but no matter how good our teachers are, if we're not teaching the right stuff, they're not gonna be able to perform. So it's all 3 of those
So you're
factors.
evaluating that?
All 3 of them, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Question.
Yes.
So obviously you're doing what you can from your end and the district. Parents at the house, how can we support the effort, you know?
That's a really good question. From my end, it would be 2 main things, okay? For us to make the gains going on, they have to support the kids' reading on whatever level that is, okay? And it's not reading for homework, but you're not gonna gain this fluency unless there's that constant reading. And for math, again, the old school math facts fluency. Because what happens is, if the child in 3rd grade has not mastered addition, and they might know to be able to do 2 + 2, but now they have to take addition to a different level, and they're still trying to figure out 2 + 2, we need that fluency back. And I think that's the pendulum shift, is that when we went to Common Core, we went so away from fluency that everybody got lost in what we're supposed to do, and the pendulum's finally swinging back that we're saying, okay, we need to master fluency, we need to master the basic skills. So what the parents can do for that is just that constant, like, let them talk, let them do those math flashcards, let them do that reading, let them have a book in their hand, let them have a book at their level. That's one of the things, like, we're so focused on, oh, I did a TC assessment and I'm a level M, I should be bringing home a level M book. No, if I'm gonna read on my own, I should be reading at I don't go to the library and pick what level book I'm gonna read. I pick a book that I wanna read. If it's too hard, I pick another one. But I'm not gonna get a love of reading if I say I have to go read this and it's too hard for me. So those are things that parents can do. One of the nice things that we're supporting at the elementary level this year is the parents are gonna get that universal screen of data at the conference, and that will be a little bit more of a discussion for them. So now they'll know specifically, ooh, they're not really good in fractions. And that could be a talking point now for the teacher to say, here's something you can do. You know, like I said, it comes back to the data. We're gonna have the ability to help parents with that. That helps.
Yeah.
Our science data, we had kids take it, we don't know how they did. That's a ... Once we have that ... I guess I'll be back here. I will say, being a former science teacher, science supervisor, we might never see this data. The EOC, when they didn't want to do that anymore, they changed it to the NJVCT. When they didn't want to do that anymore, they changed it to this. And since 2004, they said this test was going to count, and it still hasn't. So I don't have faith in this test coming out anytime soon. I also don't have faith in the results of that, and I'm going to say that before it even happened. Dynamic learning maps. This is awesome. Yay to Jessica and her team. We have never had areas up here where we had 100% passing, meaning that in grade 8 and 11 for our ELA kids. Now granted, we might have only had 2 kids tested, but those 2 kids passed this test. That is huge, because that means here's our discrepancy. Our special programs kids, we got it down, and the reason we're doing that is because it's exactly what I said. We're modeling these tasks for them so that we know how to teach them. So here's the discrepancy. In math, I mean, grade 4, we had 5 kids take it and 5 kids passed it. And when they passed it, 3 of those kids passed it as what would be a 5, advanced, which is awesome. And even in our science, in grade 5, we had 40% of the kids pass it. So we had 2 kids. I mean, that's a huge improvement for us. So seeing that we're hitting our lowest population right now should outweigh everything that I just said. Moving on. Our last is access for L's, and like I said, basically what this test does is, this test, I learned a lot about it when I started here, because I'll be honest, I did not have experience with this prior to starting here. Because it was always the ELL supervisor's position, but that's me now. So I learned a lot about this test, and what this test does is it's pretty cool, because if I'm a kindergartner, but I'm deemed a kindergartner who's a low English kindergartner, then I take the test for low English kindergartners. But if I'm a high kindergartner, then I take the test for high. So they're actually testing on the level the student's at, which I thought was pretty cool. Because we're not making the low kindergartner take the high kindergarten test. So again, our kindergartners come in, we're not expecting many of them to pass, to get a 4, and the reason I picked 4.5 or above is that's what they're allowed to use to exit the program. So we did have 1 child in 3rd grade exit the program, 2 kids in 4th grade, 3 in 5th grade. According to this assessment, we had none in the high school, but what's pretty cool is this is not the only measure used to determine if kids are going to exit the program. So this past year, we actually had 19 students exit the program based on multiple measures, which is pretty impressive, so that as they come in, they were deemed through their multiple measures, through the access, through the LEDA screeners, and through independent testing data and input from the teachers, that they met the standards by the state to say that they were now proficient enough in English to exit the program. Those 19 students are monitored by us for 2 years in what we call an ELL monitoring program, so that if their grades drop, if we notice a big change in their kind of demeanor, we can put them right back in the program. So it's state law, but Christine Wegert at the high school and overseeing all guidance is heavily involved in helping monitor these students for 2 full years after. And finally, our next steps is, like I said, I don't have the end-all be-all answer. What we're gonna do is we're just gonna keep digging away and chipping away, and our goal is that each time we're gonna make some more gains. And I think that we're getting the buy-in from the teachers. We have a plan where, providing you guys are supporting us to provide the staffing we need to implement those plans. And like I said, we have the accurate data. So with all these pieces together, we can start or keep the train moving forward. But we're not going fast right now, but we're going forward, which is what we need to be going. That's it. All right, good. It's not either problem. Done. Any questions? Awesome.
Thank you very much, very thorough presentation.
Thank you. I just want to add, to kind of go back to Mr. Sciarra's point. I think the last slide she had here about multiple measures, I think to me, that's the key with this stuff, is that not just for the ELL assessment, but all assessments. I mean, yes, I think there's positives and negatives to these tests, because in reality, going forward, these kids are gonna have to take SAT tests, and, you know, to get into grad school, you have to take tests, and you're gonna have to take these kinds of tests, right, as you go through your life, depending on your career path, whatever that may be. But at the end of the day, I think we have to just keep in mind that that's 1 or 2 days in a kid's 180-day life in a school year. So, yeah, we're gonna look at it, yes, we're gonna use it, but the fact that we're collecting all of this other data as well, I think is more important than just this one assessment. This is one piece, and I always say one piece of a very large puzzle, right? Because there's so many other factors that play into it. Yeah, of course, we're gonna use it, and we're gonna use all the other data, and I think the fact that we're digging into this data more than ever before, we're collecting more, and we're looking at it more than ever before this year. I think that's huge for us, and it's gonna be a big step forward, because they're gonna be able to really unpack and look at where do we need to support kids, and not just large groups of kids, but even individual kids with this NJTSS program, right? Taking our 4 lowest kids in each grade level in each school and really targeting skills that they need help in. So yeah, I mean, look, we have to report it. I think it's important to look at, but I think there's a larger picture that we have to keep in mind.
You know, just to respond back, I agree. I mean, when you look at these tests, you know, you have mixed feelings. You want to test well, you want to test above what the state is doing, because you're like, well, somebody else is doing it.
Yep.
Well, where are we missing it? And then you realize that you did a lot of this blindfold, because you had no guidance about what do we test for, how are we going to test, what impact it's going to have on the kids emotionally, you know, their mental wellness, because, you know, some of those other things, are bad tests, or what, you know, we don't want to teach towards the test, but you kind of have to have a, you know, so tearing this thing apart at least gives us some idea, but you're looking at the overall, you know, child and their development, that's what we need to look at.
Agreed.
And not really just judge it based on a test.
Agreed.
If I could just piggyback on what Mike's saying, if you look at colleges, they're going more towards the whole child. More and more colleges, the trend is to go test optional for many different colleges, and it started with Ivy League colleges that didn't necessarily need a 1,600 test score from every single student to get into Harvard. They want to look at the whole child, see what you do with your family and the community, extracurriculars, and that's why I think like those day-to-day grades, I think for a lot of colleges are more important than just here's your number that you did that one day, you know, of all the variables we were saying, if it's in the morning, it's a one-time thing, even though they average out your SAT scores. So I think even colleges, the trend is going towards, yeah, the data is important,
Right.
but if it's a one-day SAT versus your whole high school career and some of these other things, the day-to-day grades, I think are holding like more and more weight as we're moving forward.
And it is important to know what the data is, so we could, you know, if it's there, we should be able to do that, looks like we're doing that, so.
Absolutely.
It's nice to see.
Just to confirm what you said, my son went to Quinnipiac for a visit, and the admissions guy spoke with everybody, and he was talking about all the different things, and he said, as far as the SATs, if you do well, send them in. If you don't do well, don't send them in. We know that that's not an indicator of what kind of student you are. Straight out to the whole parent group, everybody. So, yeah, just, you know, to reinforce what you were saying.
And I know just from having high school senior last year, when she went through the guidance department, they actually go through the school saying, this school, go test optional. This school, give them your SAT scores, you know, your better percentages to be able to get in. And again, it's like what you said, they're looking at the whole child, they're not looking at, you know, you're a 1300, these are all the things you could do, whatever your score ends up being. And I think that's the correct way to do it.
I just want to make a point. Tamer's back in the back, raising his hand, saying, this guy's got to hit the mic. We're talking, and so just a reminder for everybody to hit the mic when we're talking.
Oh, just you can leave it up? Yeah.
Yeah, we can do that.
Thanks, Tamer.
Can I say my point again? I thought I had good points.
All right, anybody else, comments, questions, anything else? Thank you again. All right, we're going to move on to curriculum and instruction. Abby, please.
Pursuant to the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Committee on Curriculum and Instruction recommends the following resolutions. CI 1 on page 3, CI 2 through CI 5 on page 4, CI 6 through CI 12 on page 5, and CI 13 through CI 20 on page 6. On behalf of the committee, I so move.
Have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Sierra. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Goff?
Yes.
Mr. Palooz?
Yes.
Mr. Reicher?
Yes.
Ms. Sanford?
Yes.
Mrs. Sciarra?
Yes.
Mr. Tara?
Yes.
Mr. Turco?
Yes.
Mrs. Clavijo?
Yes.
Mr. Doyle?
Yes. Abby, right back to you, please, for personnel.
The following resolution items are pursuant to the recommendation of the superintendent of schools. P21 through P30 on page 7, P31 through P37 on page 8, P38 through P50 on page 9, continued on to page 10, P51 through P53 on page 10, continued on to page 11, and P67 on the addendum. On behalf of the committee, I so move.
Second.
Any discussion?
I got a question. Thanks. P53, Christina Perlo.
Yes.
That, the Christina Perlo that used to be.
So she is in a program where she needs to shadow an administrator. So she asked if she could shadow one of our assistant principals for one day. So that's what she'll be doing. It's part of her college program. She's doing it here and in a couple of other places, but I don't know the exact, I don't know if this is a day that she's coming, but she'll be shadowing Mr. Mazaka for one day.
Okay, thank you.
P50, is there a set rate for these items? Is it by person? Is it by,
There is set rates, it depends on on the role.
okay,
It's all in, so in the contract, there's an appendix, and the rates are listed in the
Okay.
appendix, but they vary based on the role that you serve in. If that makes sense.
makes sense.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Palooz?
Abstain from P38, 39, that's everything else?
Mr. Reicher?
Yes.
Ms. Sanford?
Yes.
Mrs. Sciarra?
Yes.
Mr. Tara?
Yes.
Mr. Turco?
Yes.
Mr. Clavijo?
Yes.
Ms. Goff?
Yes.
Mr. Doyle?
Yes. Finance and Administration, Tanya, please.
Acceptance of donations. Acceptance of a donation of dictionaries to the third grade students valued at $648 from the Hawthorne Rotary Club, and approval of a donation of $2,500 to the STEM program from the Diversity Alliance for Science Incorporated. We would like to thank everybody for their donations. Action items. Pursuant to the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Committee on Finance and Administration recommends the following resolutions. F54 through F57 on page 11. F58 on page 11, and it goes through to page 37. A59 on page 37. On behalf of the committee, I so move.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Reicher?
Yes.
Ms. Sanford?
Yes.
Mrs. Sciarra?
Yes.
Mr. Tara?
Yes.
Mr. Turco?
Yes.
Mr. Clavijo?
Yes.
Ms. Goff?
Yes.
Mr. Palooz?
Yes.
Mr. Doyle?
Yes. Claims, Lou, please.
As we go through the claims, everything seems in order. As such, I recommend that the board approve bills for the month of October 2019.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Sanford?
Yes.
Mrs. Sciarra?
Gonna abstain on vendor, C659, I think that's invoice C659, and vendors number 2892, with reservations on 2892 and 2875. Yes on all others.
Mr. Tara?
Yes.
Mr. Turco?
Reservations the same as,
2892 and 2875.
vote 2892, 2875. Yes on everything else.
Mr. Clavijo?
Yes.
Ms. Goff?
Yes.
Mr. Palooz?
Yes.
Mr. Reicher?
Yes.
Mr. Doyle?
Yes. Buildings and grounds, Mike.
Thank you, Mr. President. Pursuant to the recommendations of the Superintendent of Schools, the Committee on Buildings and Grounds recommends the following resolutions. On page 38, BG 61. Moving on to page 39, BG 62.
Following on page 40, BG 63 to 65. And on the goldenrod, on page 44, BG 68. On behalf of the committee, I so move.
Second. Any discussion?
I have a
Yes.
question. BG 68 on the addendum, for the Jefferson School Daisy Troop meetings, these start at 3 PM,
Right at the end of the school day.
but
As soon as
are
it
they
gets
all
announced.
Jefferson students?
I don't know.
Because wouldn't that make it for very difficult drop-off and
I would
pick-up?
assume, to be honest, I don't know the answer. I would
Okay.
assume they're Jefferson kids, but I can't confirm.
Because Jefferson's getting out at that time, and then
Yeah.
people are dropping off daisies at that time.
I think typically they don't separate the scouts or, Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts by school.
They typically don't, that's why I'm asking, like, unless they conjured up an entire Jefferson troop, this seems like timing might not be,
Right, but they're reserving the room starting at 3.
so they might not
Start
necessarily.
till 3:30, but the troop leaders can get everything ready in anticipation.
But is that, do we want people in the building at that time? I mean, I know school, like,
Yeah, we let them.
volunteers and it just doesn't seem hectic to anybody else. I don't even like picking up my daughter at Roosevelt at 3 o'clock on the outside. So I can't imagine what the inside is like, is what I'm saying.
Again, I don't think I don't see it as an issue, but if it
Okay, no, you
becomes,
guys don't think it's an
if it
issue?
becomes one, then we'll deal with it, we'll address it. I don't think it'll be an issue because, again, I don't know kids come from other schools, that will be a problem. But the way I see it, that's their problem.
Okay.
To deal with. No disrespect to them, but.
No, I mean, yeah, ultimately it's
That's
not,
kind of their,
as long as we don't think it'll be like a parking, okay.
because by the time, hopefully most of these kids are right in the building. Maybe that's why they're doing it at 3 o'clock. I would assume that's partly, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Because they don't
my
give us that
daughter's
information.
Not all
They just-
from one school.
They just request the space. They don't give us a list of kids. They just ask if they can use the space.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Scarra?
Yes with reservations on BG 62, 63, 64, and 65. Yes on all others.
Mr. Tara?
Yes.
Mr. Turco?
With reservation on BG 62, 63, 64, 65, yes on everything else.
Mr. Clavijo?
Yes.
Ms. Goff?
Yep.
Mr. Palooz?
Yes.
Mr. Reicher?
Yes.
Ms. Sanford?
Yes.
Mr. Doyle?
Yes. Policy, back to you, Adam.
Pursuant to the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Committee on Policy recommends the following resolutions. PO 66, which is the second reading and adoption of the following policies. On behalf of the committee, I so move.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Tara?
Yes.
Mr. Turco?
Yes.
Mr. Clavijo?
Yes.
Ms. Goff?
Yes.
Mr. Palooz?
Yes.
Mr. Reicher?
Yes.
Ms. Sanford?
Yes.
Mr. Scarra?
Yes.
Mr. Doyle?
Yes. All right, moving on to committee and liaison reports. Alex, we have anything on negotiations?
No, Mr. President.
Thank you, sir. Referendum, I'll give you a real quick update. As you know, the referendum passed. We will be getting together as a committee, sitting down with Mr. Sprito and his staff, just to start going over the steps of what are going to be the next steps. How are we going to start implementing the referendum and allocating that money and what projects we'll be doing first, second, third, prioritizing things. I know Mr. Sprito's already been speaking to the architect, and that ball is rolling. As we get more details, it will be shared with the committee, and we will be sharing it with the public. But very excited, positive things happening. Anything you want to add to that, Mr. Sprito?
No, just to piggyback on what Mr. Doyle said, we, Ms. Engel, Mr. Chamberlain, myself, met with our architect Frank Pacinio and Tom Strasser from Solutions. They had come up with a tentative plan of work this summer. We disagreed with some of the things that they wanted on the plan, so we basically sat with them. We went through things that we would like them to focus on this summer. They're going to be giving us a revised list. Once we have that revised list, we'll obviously share it with the referendum committee. I am leaving the referendum web page open. I'm going to leave it available because I feel like we can upload information to that page. So as we begin to work on things or have plans to work on things, we can place it there, or post it there. So people will see, these are the projects we're working on now, we can almost put up the schedule. So that's the plan. But yeah, as soon as we have something more concrete from the architect, we'll share it with
Be a
you.
point of information for people too.
I'm sorry?
Be a point of information for people too, that
Correct.
your school's already, yeah, it's a good idea.
So, all right.
When we do that too, I know that we're gonna do, but then we could actually do the real before and afters.
Yes.
Of like a lot of those rooms and other districts that I've been in, they've shown like this is what it looked like, and then before, and then after the real like results and not the renderings that we have.
Yep.
While we're talking about the referendum, it kind of falls under the committee, so I'm just gonna get this over with now. I want to take this opportunity to thank the many people that have helped make passing this referendum a reality. Every team needs a coach, and that title belongs to our superintendent, Mr. Rick Cerrito. It was his amazing drive and vision that alerted us to the need for this referendum. He worked tirelessly throughout the entire process and was a true inspiration to all of us. Next comes our co-captains, Business Administrator Trudy Engel and our Buildings and Grounds Supervisor Scott Chamberlain. Both supported the referendum from day one and were intricate with developing the scope of the projects and the costs associated with them. A good team also needs a manager, and that position was filled by our architect, Frank Macinio of Solutions Architecture. Frank and his associates were able to navigate us through every step of the referendum process and make sure we adhered to the very strict guidelines and timelines. He also provided us with great insight on how to improve many of the existing spaces in all of the schools while making sure all of the projects were eligible for the 40% debt service. Administrators, principals, building supervisors, teachers, and all ancillary staff. These are the players on the team. They all immediately bought in on the proposed referendum and fostered support all along the way. Board of Education trustees, my Vice President, Alex Calijo, Mike Sierra, Anthony Palouse, Abby Goff, Tanya Sanford, Bruce Reicher, Marco Totaro, and Lou Turco. All of our trustees supported the referendum unconditionally and provided oversight throughout the entire process, as well as making sure all team members had the necessary tools at their disposal to achieve our objective. Last but certainly not least, I want to extend a very heartfelt thank you to all of our parents, PTOs, HEF, CPAC, former students, local businesses, and anyone else who supported this referendum and made sure they took the time to cast a yes vote. As a wise person once said, it takes a village to raise a child. It is very clear that the residents of Hawthorne live by that creed. Once again, I'd like to thank everyone from the bottom of my heart. And that's it for the referendum report. Thank you, Mr. Cerrito. You're welcome. No problem. Save my eyes. No problem. All right, moving on. Curriculum and instruction. Abby, please.
We did not meet this month, but if I could jump down to policy, we met instead. We had a policy meeting this evening. We have started preliminary discussions of the policy in which we would allow non-resident students to pay tuition to attend the high school. We reviewed documents from Strauss Esme and other districts who have current tuition programs. We have just begun the discussion. We're looking to roll that out for September of 2020. We did decide that we would be looking to create 3 documents: a policy, an application, and then a pursuant contract that we would use with the parents. So we will be meeting again. We are reviewing the documents that were handed to us from Mr. Cerrito, who did get them from our attorney as well. So we know that they're valid documents being used in other districts. And again, Strauss Esme, which is obviously our policy holder, and those are valid documents that are being used. So everything we have are already working documents, so we're gonna either cut and paste, or we've already started to sort of assemble what we think is the correct policy. That's where we started this evening. So as we have more progress in those documents, we will share with you guys.
Thank you, Abby. Anthony, how about HEF, CPAC, PTOs, and family engagement, please?
Sure, I'll start with CPAC. Next meeting is going to be October 23rd from 7 to 9 p.m. at the Lewis Bay Second Library. They're inviting any of the BOE candidates that want to go and speak from 7 to 8 o'clock, and it's going to be followed from 8 to 9 with a guest speaker presenting on special needs housing. I think that's a pretty interesting topic. Then moving on to the Ed Foundation. They are still working under 50/50, and the drawing is going to be on November 26th at the LMS. I'm sorry, the 50/50 is going to be drawn, yes, at that meeting. I'm sorry. Can't read my own writing. It's actually November 19th at the meeting. On the 26th, it's going to be at Lincoln Middle School. They're going to start the Krispy Kreme. But important, this Friday night homecoming, they will be setting up a table and selling 50/50. So if you want to purchase a 50/50 ticket, please look for them at the homecoming. And it's a good excuse to get out and see the homecoming game anyway. And then under the family engagement, I just want to thank Mr. Sprito 2 times. One for not spoiling it and speaking about this ahead of time, and also for putting on the, you and the staff that were involved with the open house. I think it's the first time we had 7th graders along with the 8th graders come up. I think it was well received. It was a good turnout. And I do want to share with you an email because I asked a few people that I saw there to kind of comment, and somebody sent me a text message that they received from their daughter, who's a 7th grader, and said that it was amazing, and they're really looking forward to all the things that they are going to have available for them at the high school. So I think it was a great job, and thank you. And if you want to piggyback on that now,
Yeah. You paid me. No, I just want to thank, listen, there was a lot of people who were involved, and I don't want to get into individuals because there's so many people from Gus Shell to Danielle Russo to Billy Cunningham. There's so many people I can go on for an hour. But, I do want to just comment about Mr. Small, Matt Small, and the broadcasting class. The videos they put together I thought were fantastic. We've had videos in the past. I think these are the best we've had. And I think, the feedback on the videos themselves were tremendous. So I think that really, after watching the video, I actually said to Mr. Shell, don't say too much. The video speaks for itself. just let the video speak for itself, because I think we don't need to say much. But overall, I thought it went really well as well.
and he did a good job of kind of refraining himself and not saying too much. So. But it was a great night. So thank you for that. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Anthony. Mike, Buildings and Grounds, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Building and Grounds Committee met on October 7th, and the final items were discussed. We continue discussing the LED lighting for the district. As you know, there is a program that we are involved in where they will give us 100% back on the actual bulbs. With that, we got some prices related to the project for the change in fixtures that we'll have, and that will be discussed, the amount that will be discussed when finances makes their report. Other items, we have flagpole and concrete replacement. Seems that in Lincoln Middle School and Washington, the flagpoles are in the center of the entrance, and it broke away a little bit of the concrete. We actually had somebody trip, I believe, recently. Nobody was injured, but it was a concern, drove a concern. So we do have some costs on the actual flagpole replacement, which is $1,995, but we don't have a cost on the concrete. And the project will be completed in the spring, and it will come out of the maintenance budget. Okay. Comment on the leak of the football field sprinkler system. There was a small hole in the sprinkler system, and we were able to fix it. We thought it was going to be much bigger, but we're happy to find out that we were, Mr. Chamberlain and his crew were able to figure it out, and we were able to get it under repair. And finally, the hot water boiler and water softening system. The high school's new hot water heater has begun to leak. We're adding a water softener. It seems that we have very hot water, and if you guys don't already know that, if you live in Hawthorne, which we all should be doing, you have hot water. And it actually, it lessens the life expectancy of these hot water heaters and so on and so forth. So we looked into this. We're going to be adding a water softener, and we have to replace the hot water heater. We got some price quotes for the hot water heater for $1,350, $13,550, and a water softener, $18,900. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Anything on New Jersey school boards?
No. Oh, yes. The convention's coming up next week. It starts Monday and Thursday. I'll be down there on Tuesday, enjoying the festivities and the workshops that they offer. And if there's anything great to report, I'll report at next board meeting.
Fantastic. Thank you. Tanya, Finance Administration and Legislative, please.
The Finance Committee met on October 7th. We discussed the following. The auditor is pretty much finishing up all the major parts of their audit. We're waiting for some guidance from the state on a few things. That's not gonna change any of our final numbers or anything, so we're hoping that we will have numbers ready for the November board meeting to share with everybody. We did talk about the sale of the bonds. We're hoping by the end of the month, we're estimating about a 3.5% rate with a possible refi option in 2026. The debt service, $9 million approximate that we would be saving the 40%, we would be receiving back over the 20-year term of the referendum. We also did discuss the lighting, as Mike had mentioned in his report. It's about $130,000 worth of bulbs and fixtures that we're getting at 100% rebate. So that's amazing. We're very excited about that. Every hallway in every school should be upgraded, and that will make a huge difference. We've already changed some things up at Lincoln Middle School, and you can definitely tell the difference between the hallways that were done and the hallways that weren't. So this should be, a really bright change. There is a cost, obviously, for the electrical work that is not covered in that, approximately $87,000. That will come partially from Scott's budget and partially from ours. Our bus came in lower than we budgeted for, so we have the extra money in there to cover that expense. And that's all I have for finance and administration. I don't have anything to report for legislative.
Okay, thank you. Anything on the council meeting, Marco?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. The following are my notes from the October 2nd, 2019 council meeting. Hawthorne Day was a great success, and we're looking forward to next year's Hawthorne Day, which will be a week later on September 26th. We appreciate all the volunteers who made the event look easy. Also, this week is Hawthorne Restaurant Week, which kicked off this past weekend and will go until October 18th. So please be sure to visit and support your favorite local restaurant and delicatessen for specials, which I got to go to Andy's tonight. Hopefully I get to eat it when we leave here. Also, the Chamber of Commerce Farmers Market will be ending at the end of this month, so please be sure to visit. And lastly, most importantly, November 5th is the general election from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. for the ward council seats. Last day of voter registration is actually tonight until 9 p.m. The mail-or ballot application must be received by October 29th, and that's for wards 1 through 4. And lastly, the Mayor Goldberg wanted to remind everybody that October is Domestic Awareness and Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Thank you.
Thank you. Lou, anything on Passaic County School Boards?
No, nothing really to report, just reiterate what Mike said. Next week is convention. I'll be going down on Monday, be back Wednesday.
Thank you, sir. All right, that's the end of our committees. We'll move on to public to be heard. Nothing for us, Sally? No?
Your son was good luck at the band competition.
Oh, yes.
He was there. We appreciate him being there.
All right, seeing no takers, we're going to move on to general comments and questions from the board related to the school district. We'll start over by Abby.
I want to reiterate what my fellow board members said about the referendum. Very thankful to the community. I know that Tanya and I spoke about it numerous times at the PTO meeting. We are both members of the Roosevelt PTO, and there are a lot of people that attend those meetings. So I feel like that's a great avenue to get information out, which leads me to my next point. I see that we have a connection with the PTOs, Mr. Palouse. I'm not sure how much information is disseminated to those other PTOs, and if so, I mean, I know I'm the board liaison. Obviously there's not a board member on every PTO, so I know Mr. Sprito speaks with the presidents, but it's such a good outlet to get parents informed, and because obviously the droves of people that attend our meetings, it just always surprises me how many people come to the Roosevelt PTO meeting. So I'm always very happy to share, and Tanya always backs up or says whatever I didn't get. But if they have other PTOs that are also heavily attended, if we could get them information, keep them up to date. We told Roosevelt we would keep them up to date on whatever projects were going on with the referendum. I'll share that the page will still be active, the referendum page. So it's just more of like a throwing it out there. How do we keep other PTOs as informed as the ones that we sit on? Just food for thought, not looking for an answer, but
Okay, thank you. Marco, anything?
Share those same thoughts. Thank you to the community for voting yes for the referendum. I think it was a great turnout, and thank you to the board members and also administration. And also thank you for providing the information tonight. It was very informative, and hopefully the analytics that are presented can also be utilized to take action, further measures down the road. But as Mr. Spirito said, it's not necessarily what holds the entire weight of an individual student, but I think it is helpful information on how we can continue to improve upon the future. So thank you.
Okay, Mike, and?
Yeah, I have a few things. First, I want to welcome Ava Tower, being our student rep this year. We're looking forward to having a great year with you. And I promise you, not all the meetings are this long. Tonight with the presentation a little longer than average. Also, I want to acknowledge and thank Mr. Sprito and his staff for continue reaching out and providing information to our parents and our community in regards to the college application night and also the open house. We extended it now to the seventh and eighth grade. I had a conflict for the college application night. I always like to try to attend these things. But I did attend the open house, which was very good. They just improved every single year. And yes, you're right, the videos are pretty dynamic. So it's nice to see. So good job by you guys.
Thank you.
Also, I wanted to thank all the residents in Hawthorne for helping us support the referendum to continue to increase and improve the school system. We're going to be making some improvements towards our infrastructure and also some improvements towards curriculum and classrooms. So we're pretty excited about that. It's going to take us a little time. So, we want it to happen as soon as possible, also like everybody else does, but just give us some time, we'll get it under control. And last but not least, Mrs. Sprito, maybe you can help me out with this. I saw something on social media, and I thought it has to do with something on Thursday night, could be tomorrow night, something about some type of meeting or workshop about scoot avoidance.
Oh, the Care Plus.
Yes.
Is that,
Cheryl Finch.
is that supported, is that a district supported?
So Care Plus, well, I'm sorry, what's her, I know Cheryl Finch, she got married.
Haversack.
Yes, so she is our Care Plus representative, the social worker who works in our schools from Care Plus.
Right.
They will run events periodically throughout the year, and this is one of the events that she is running for us, free of charge for us as well as for the people who want to attend. This is just one of those events. So I think
What is that?
I can get you the information. I don't have the information in front of me.
Yeah, I know. I think it's either tomorrow or Thursday.
It piggybacks, sorry to interrupt.
Go,
It
please,
piggybacks off of what Cheryl worked with our middle school and our high school staff at yesterday's PD. In some mindfulness, social emotional learning and school avoidance for the middle school, high school, and this is gonna piggyback off that for the parents, but I don't know offhand which night it is.
It's just another area that it's been a growing concern. I know that we've experienced. So it's nice to see that we're paying some attention to it. I hope we get some attendance from parents so they can understand some. These are things that we never had to deal with before, but it's a real issue, and it's nice that we're trying to address it. So, once again, it's a nice job by the district and your team, and this all falls into the way some of the things that we made a commitment with our family engagement committee is reaching out to parents. And every one of these things are things that fall into the open house, the college application night, the school avoidance from Care Plus. These are all great programs to show that we're doing. We're listening to the community. We're seeing some things that they're asking us for, and we're trying to provide it. So, great job.
Thank you. Yeah, the event is at Hawthorne High School on October 22nd at 6:30 p.m. All middle school and high school parents are welcome to attend. It's Tuesday the 22nd at Hawthorne High School at 6:30 p.m.
I looked for it on the website. I didn't see it.
Cheryl Haversack. Yeah, I'll make sure that we get it up on the website. I'm sure, I'll make sure that the principals too include it in their messages, but yeah, we'll get it out.
Thank you.
Bruce,
Same as everyone else said about the referendum, people voting for it, all the changes that we're gonna have, and as far as like the video for the high school, I know a lot of people that saw it on Facebook that didn't even go to the event, and they were like, in a great way, wow, that's like our school, like, we participated in all of those different things, but I agree with what Mr. Spirito said, the production value on it, voiceover, video, like everything all put together, it's probably like the best one, that I've seen done of our school and showing our school in a good light. And as I'm watching it in light of the referendum, I'm thinking how even all of those spaces that were shown, the different classrooms, the different areas, how they're gonna change in the next 2 or 3 years, and that video will look even better once all the work is done, with the referendum.
Great. Alex?
I also want to welcome my neighbor. Over the years, we've had great student reps over the years, and it seems like I'm gonna fit right in. As far as the open house, everything that we're saying, and those of us that had the opportunity of being there, there's this energy about the district, and it permeates. It's fantastic. It's great to be part of it, and it's just exciting to see what the future holds.
Okay. Lou, anything? Todd?
Nothing new. I'm just gonna piggyback a little bit on what Abby and Bruce had said. So I think there's a lot of value in having a representative at the PTO meetings or having PTO presidents or representatives there come here. Because I really feel like that when we are at Roosevelt and Abby does her report and I sit there and I look at the people talking, that they understand and they're hearing from a fellow mom, somebody that they they see every day, that they see in the classroom, they see on the field. And I feel like it's more person to person instead of sitting up here and just talking to a camera. I just feel like they absorb more that way and they feel like they're more involved that way. And I think there's a lot of value in that. And if there's a way, as with parent engagement, as we've been doing and trying to get everybody more involved, I think we should look into that a little bit more. And with what Bruce was saying with the videos, we've been showcasing all these great things and I love it. And we've been doing it over the last couple of years and we've been focusing on curriculum and emotional well-being and we've been focusing on technology and I'm so excited with the referendum that now we can focus on the facilities as well so we can do more and kind of bring everything full circle. But thank you, Mr. Sprito, thank you board, thank you public, thank you everybody for helping make this happen and I am so excited to get started on it.
And Mr. Sprito, since it's my turn,
I'm sorry,
go ahead.
Thank you, Sam. Oh, no, I'm sorry, did I forget you, Mr. Lewis? Go ahead, the floor is yours.
I forgot what I was gonna say now. Just to piggyback what Tanya was saying now, and I actually really did forget about what I was gonna talk about. So I'll come back to that, but I did want to welcome Amy. I thought you did a great job tonight for your first night. We're really looking forward to having you here, for the rest of the year.
I think you were gonna volunteer to go to every PTO meeting.
Yeah.
I will do my best to reach out to all the PTO presidents and see, how we could communicate more, bring more to the board meetings, and also share, whatever we're doing.
Yeah, there's some new presidents this year too, so they may have ideas of how a couple of the schools have new presidents. Roosevelt does, some new president. Jefferson does. Trying to think, Lincoln does not. The high school has a new president this year, so a few of the schools have new leaders.
I'll have to reach out and try to, because that's what I really do with CPAC and have. I reach out to the presidents and we, kind of collaborate on what they want me to share. So I do think it's really important that we try to, get everybody more involved. But I just want to make a comment on Mr. Sciarra's report with the water softener.
Yes.
Because you did mention that obviously it's going to add life expectancy to, the hot water heater. Correct me if I'm wrong, now hot water heaters for the entire building? Anywhere that hot water goes?
I believe it's called a hot water boiler. But it's really like a hot water heater.
Right.
I believe it's in the high school. I don't know if it's for the entire high school. I think so.
A good portion of it?
Yeah. But I don't know if there's another one. I don't know if there's just more than one. I don't know but I know that one obviously services the high school. It's only about 4 or 5 years old, and it's deteriorated to the point where you can't repair it, and we need to replace it. So, which is the reason we put.
Just to make a point, it's not the new boilers that
No,
we just got. I just want to make
water
sure everybody
It's a hot water,
understands that.
Yeah, it's a hot water.
But I think the point is, because when you look at that number and you think, wow, it's a hot water heater, the fact of the matter is that softener, if anybody knows, like you said, the calcium, it's kind of like clogging your arteries, right? But when you soften the water, it actually adds life expectancy not only to the boiler itself, for the hot water heater itself, but everything that it reaches out to.
Correct.
Yes.
So I just wanted to make that point that it's actually a bigger savings over the period of time, like you said.
Just the hot water.
4 years is not what that life expectancy should have been. So the water softener is gonna obviously add to that life expectancy as well as, every other, service that goes through, so.
100%.
So,
Could I just add something? Sure. Okay. Mr. Sprita, I know we've played with this and talked about it a few times before. Just a reminder, if there's any opportunity, because you guys got so many great programs going right now. If there's any opportunity to take videos of it, because some parents just look at this school of avoidance night. If they're not available, they'll miss the opportunity completely. Now, I don't know if that's an opportunity that we could do that, because I know sometimes when we bring somebody outside, they choose not to be videoed, or maybe there's pay involved, and So I understand the issues around it, but if we could, I would say let's try to exhaust that first, because we're asking parents for that one night, then they'll miss it completely. And a lot of these great programs, and then if we can memorialize it, and it could always be on our website, they can look at it any time. Maybe it's not an issue for them today, but it might be, a few months from now. And
Well,
thank you.
The other,
Sorry.
oh no.
There's a BSI meeting tomorrow.
Tomorrow morning is it's the normal title meeting.
Right. But it's at 9 a.m., right? Or sometime during the
It's
day.
9:30 a.m. when Roosevelt does it. That I don't. Every school does it differently.
I mean, I don't know anybody who can go to that meeting. So I don't know why it's at that time. I looked at it and I was like, I can't go. I mean, any information you can put up about that, especially since
That's
we're-
already all up there.
Oh,
So
good.
all of the title
especially
documents are
since it's
already-
all new
that's
and
under my
revamped. And maybe we can talk about changing that time going forward. Just to piggyback off of what Mike is saying.
Just to add to Mr. Scarra's point, I don't know if this is a possibility or not, because I know there've been changes with the video production class, that there's no more morning show because it was a club, but maybe the possibility, if the speakers are coming into the high school, maybe that could be a possible project for some of the students, not to go and videotape the whole program, but to actually go and interview the person who's presenting, just about what they're presenting about, and then it's a different light, like if someone's actually going in there, and getting paid, then they might want to be interviewed. Like in my own school, we'll have authors that will come for the whole week, and they get paid to come for the whole week, but they'll also come on the morning show every single time they're there, because they know the whole school is going to be watching that, and they don't charge a fee just to be interviewed for 3 minutes, where I could understand why they might charge a fee if you're videotaping their whole, hour presentation. And then maybe on the back end, like what Mike is suggesting, if you miss the school avoidance night, here's a 2-minute interview with, whoever is giving that. And maybe the person then presenting, I know she technically works for us too, but like outside people, I think they would more do like a 2 or 3 minute interview than, if they're charging something, I understand where they're not gonna want you to videotape them. I don't know, just a possibility that maybe like students could actually go and for the student too, not to stay the whole night, but just interview them a couple minutes before they go on, something like that possibly.
Anyone else? Real quick, I just want to point out to our many loyal fans at home that the board office has received another technological upgrade. If you look around the room, we've got 3 brand new, I'm going to guesstimate it about 50-inch flat screen TV/monitors. We have all new microphones here and some new great capabilities. We got a whole little command center going on up here. So once again, improvements being made here for everybody, and I'd like to thank Tamer, part of our IT department, Mr. Brisbane, and the rest of the IT department for putting this together and getting it completed. Thank you very much.
Just if I could just add to that, so the benefits, there's so many benefits outside of just these meetings. And the fact that we've now renovated this room, we have used this room more this year in just the first month and a half of school than we have in the last 5 years that I've been here.
Wow.
We, not only are we using it, we use it almost daily for meetings. Mr. Brisbane hosts a real-time user group meeting here. So I guess it's all of northern New Jersey.
That's over from Franklin to Sussex.
Okay, so there's a northern region group that meets, the districts that use real time, they host those meetings here now. The police department used it for their Citizens Police Academy, they're using it every Monday, this room. So my point is, it's not just, yes, we benefit from it, but the district, I can tell you, we are using it every day. It's booked, I mean, we have a calendar, because so many people want to use it. So we're getting so much more use, I mean, other than once a month for half the year that we're here, we're using it on a daily basis. So the upgrades are, it's being used very much, and not just by the district, by the borough. The community using it, so it's been great, we're really excited about it, because now it just opens up more options for us going forward.
All right, great. Once again, very positive, very positive. All right, moving on to new business. We'll start with the captain. Nothing? Tanya, anything? Luke? Alex? New business? Bruce?
I just have one thing for new business. In October, there's a lot of weeks that it is with Respect Week, all these different weeks that go on. This week is actually Digital Citizenship Week, not only in the United States, but also in the world. If you go to the website digcitinstitute.com, there's a full days going on that they're video conferencing with classrooms around the world, where they're talking about what they're doing in their classrooms. Tomorrow, which is Wednesday, we have Monday off, I'm off my day. Wednesday, the whole day online is in Spanish. So they're gonna be from classrooms around the world that speak Spanish, talking about what they do for digital citizenship. And right now they have about 35 countries and over 100,000 students as part of this 5th annual Digital Citizenship Week. And I was lucky enough last night to be on one of the panels with people from all over the country talking about what schools are doing for digital citizenship, and a lot of schools are even turning it towards digital leadership, where what are positive things that kids could do in schools instead of all the negative things, to highlight the positive things. This morning I watched, for 40 minutes, there was a school from Texas where the students helped run a lot of the IT and train the teachers, and the students in this high school were getting Google certified in order to train other students what to do, make videos for teachers, and also pretty much brand their school, that they were running all the social media for their school. So a lot of different ideas that you could get from it. The hashtag is DigCitWeek, hashtag DigCitWeek, and they report out all the different things that they're doing. And it's kind of like a grassroots. This is the 5th year they've had it, but there's basically about 2 people running it, and they've made these connections, around the world, and it really, is a fantastic thing. That, again, their view is kind of like, don't tell the kids all the things you can't do, but tell them all the incredible things you can do, that they're growing up with social media and so much technology. And it's on all the time, so it's something that you possibly could check out before the end of the week.
All right. Mike, man, I'm good, thanks. Martha?
So something did come up at the PTO meeting, and Tanya and I were both privy to hearing this, that Roosevelt, one of the basketball hoops fell or tipped or leaned, and Mr. Heisekine was able to see that on the weekend, residents were playing, and they weren't hanging on it, it just tipped.
Outside?
Outside, and now it has been removed, apparently.
Oh,
But that a small discussion did ensue about residents using the playground off school hours and the safety of that and the liability of the district. So just so that you guys are aware that the discussion happened at the PTO meeting. No one was hurt, and it's totally fine. He said he watched the cameras and he saw they were just playing, and then it just went ring. So I guess we removed it then, because there's only one.
I'm assuming. I mean, it's our basketball.
I'm assuming. So there are varying opinions of I take my kids there off school hours. I know many people do. I use the track off school hours, so I do think that option is definitely something that is positive for the town. So
There was some concern about, some older high school kids hanging out, some
Right.
paraphernalia and things left behind that, isn't appropriate for elementary school age children to see or deal with. Sometimes they just like to hang out there late at night. And, there's no way to avoid that, I guess, unless you just keep showing those cameras and making maybe slapping up a sign saying this area is being videotaped, maybe, or something to scare them away, but. I know my turn passed, but Abby just reminded me of something. Sorry, guys, can I sneak in? I'm asking permission. Okay, real fast, I won't keep you long. Mr. Peskin did mention that this is the 100th year anniversary for Roosevelt School, and he has put up, there's a Facebook page for the centennial of Roosevelt, and there's a lot of cool stories and a lot of old pictures and things on there. So if anybody has anything or has a connection to that school, I'm just letting you know to check it out. It's very fun.
Cool. Good, Ed?
I'm good.
All right, coming back to you, Ed, old business.
No.
Mike, Bruce, Alex,
No, sir.
Lou, Todd?
Nope.
Wait, sure.
Well, actually, I do have something. It's not really considered old business, but since you pointed at me, Mr. Sperito, somebody had asked, I
forgot what I was gonna say.
somebody had asked, they're looking for a 1965 yearbook. Is that something the high school would have?
I have to look, we have yearbooks, I just don't know that particular, I'll have to check it
Yeah, I just
out.
didn't know where to even, everybody
The high
was trying to
school
figure out, the high school has them, so who would they contact over there?
I'll look for you.
Okay.
I'll look. There's, my brother was just looking for his, because his 30-year reunion is this year, and so we went into the closet, we found a couple.
Okay.
It just depends on the year.
Okay.
Some years there are some, like my year last year, there were none left, we didn't have any, so it just depends, I'll look.
Okay.
19, how many do you want, one?
No, the guy was looking for one, I'll send you his info.
Just one,
One.
okay. I will look.
Anthony, old business, new business, any business.
Anything I wanna talk about?
Hold on.
Okay, so I did remember what I was gonna talk about before, but I wasn't gonna let it go. Mr. Sperito, how long has the broadcasting actually, been in class now?
Goodness.
Just a few, it's not that years. Yeah,
Well,
only a
we
few.
did it, but it was there.
Probably I wanna say, well, Kevin Johnson was the first one.
Right, he was here before I was here.
Yeah, he was here for years, so I would say about 5 years.
At least, he started 5 years, it's gotta be at least. 'cause
He
was
started
here
when I
when
started, so it's about six.
Seven?
Just, no, Kevin Johnson and I started around the same time, so it's about 6 years.
About 6 years, right before I got here, I'm sure, because he was here when I got here. We redid it, we spent a lot of money on that.
And it's expanded,
It's Reicher grant.
right? It's actually expanded a little bit too, right? Like broadcasting 1 and 2.
Yes, we've expanded it, and obviously with the new equipment, it's leaps and bounds from where it was.
Exactly, and that's what I'm kind of really excited about the referendum is because once you get other things out of the way that are, necessities for running a district, I'm hoping it's gonna be freeing up to expand on, other important projects that we want to do academically.
Yes.
So, looking forward to that. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President, for allowing me to speak again.
Anytime, Captain, anything for you. All right, moving on, private session, be it resolved that the Hawthorne Board of Education convenes on an executive session to discuss exempt matters pertaining to 1 through 9. Be it further resolved that it is anticipated that executive session will be for 45 minutes in duration, that the public action may or may not be taken. Be it further resolved that the minutes of the executive session will be made available upon the determination by the board that the disclosure of the minutes will not detrimentally affect any right or interest of the board, and the need for confidentiality and orders. A motion to move into?
Motion. Second.
All right. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Turco?
Yes.
Mr. Polino?
Yes.
Ms. Goff?
Yes.
Mr. Paluce?
Yes.
Mr. Reicher?
Yes.
Mr. Stanford?
Yes.
Mr. Chiara?
Yes.
Mr. Carroll?
Yes.
Thank you, Kristen, for this beautiful presentation. It's hard to dabble.